Hello and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Mordian Glory video, and before we get into today's video I would like to say a huge thank you to the channel supporter for sending in these pictures today. And I'm going to be honest, I'm probably pronouncing this incorrectly, but I don't mean any disrespect. But how it looks to me is nice, bold. It's probably Nika Bolt or something like that, but nice, Nika, whatever your name is. I just want to say wholeheartedly massive thanks for these pictures in. They look really cool. I like the black and white effect that you've put on a lot of the pictures, and I absolutely love the terrain. Where did you get the terrain from? Tell me your secrets. Tell me your secrets, Gandalf, because this terrain looks absolutely fantastic. And I just love the models and everything, that central that's running, all that good shit. I have to say that it just looks really cool. You've got an absolutely fantastic Imperial Guard army. So thanks for these pictures in. If anyone else has got any cool pictures you want me to use in my videos, please post them on my Facebook page, or you can email them to me at mordianglorytv@gmail.com. Without further ado, let's crack on with today's video. Now today guys, we're going to be covering the topic that is on many people's mind at the moment. Why is 40k so awesome, but also why is 40k so awful? Because you will find that despite the fact how many people will go online and moan and roll around in the salt until they're so dehydrated that their skin is like cracking and blistering and they've been looking like a Nurgle marine. But Nurgle probably doesn't like salt. But anyway, you know the point what I'm saying is like it's all gross. Like those people, why are people so salty about this thing? Why are the whole like YouTube channels that are like dedicated to being salty about 40k? And these people make bank of being salty about 40k. How can 40k have so much criticism, yet at the same time be still like awesome and big and beautiful, and there's just so much content? And how does it keep sucking people back in? And how does it just have that draw? And why does it always remain on top? You know, how can 40k be so awesome and so awful at the same time? Well, you know what? That's what we're going to just look at today. I'm going to answer that question for you right now. And we're not just looking at this from like a gameplay perspective or like a lore perspective or anything. We're covering all of it. You know, I always say, you guys get great value for money. I mean, for like 10 years or however long I've been running this bloody shit show of a channel that I've been doing, I didn't run adverts. And now finally I'm running adverts. I'm giving you like 2, 3 for 1 content. Anyway, that's a total tangent. See, I'm being salty about that. How am I being salty? But the point is how is 40k like this? How is it such a dichotomy? Is that the right word? That's a big word. How is it such a paradox? How is it such a mirror? Chalk and cheese, yin and yang. How is it like this? And we're going to be looking at this from, like I said, lore. We're going to be looking at it from models and all this kind of stuff. How does it work? Why is it still drawing people in? Right, I've always said that too many times. I think you guys have got the picture. 40k, firstly, from a gameplay point, and this is like a really big point, and this is kind of like, this is the point that has kind of inspired this video. So from a gameplay point, why is 40k both loved and hated? Why do I personally have such a love-hate relationship with 40k? And the best example I can give you is the video that I did recently where I took 365 conscripts in a list. Okay? And that really sums up how awesome and how awful 40k is at the same time. Because from a gameplay perspective. Because there are very few games out there, very few game systems out there in the 28 mil, with sort of heroic scale, or just 28 mil in general, that will allow you to run that many models on the tabletop. Bolt Action doesn't let you do it. Loads of other games similar to 40k, they do Star Wars Legion, that doesn't let you do it. They're all small, you know, small scale and all this kind of stuff. But 40k in a normal game will allow you to run 365 dudes, will allow you to literally run a company of models. And that is awesome. The fact that the game system allows you to do that, and that's been like an option for ages. I mean, that's actually on the low end. If we look at like 8th edition, when conscripts like 3 points a dude, you probably could have got even more in there. If you look at like 7th edition, 6th edition, 5th edition, especially 5th edition, when you had the old 5th edition Guard Codex, which literally said, take a squad of conscripts for like 3 points a dude, Oh, and for 40 points, you can upgrade that squad. So every single time that squad dies, it literally walks back on the battlefield. Send in the next wave, Commander Chekhov. That is awesome. This has been like a thing you've been able to do forever. Green Tide, you want to run 200 Orc Boys? You go for it. You want to run Nid Swarm? You go for it. The 40k allows you to build these crazy, wacky armies. And we're not even talking about like just horde armies, right? We're not even talking about just horde armies. You've got things like, do you want to run a tank like company in like 28 mil? You can do that. Do you want to run like a whole army of giant robots like Mech Warrior, but in big, like so they look like they're towering over the foes and they're not tiny? 40k lets you do that in a normal game. You don't even have to buy into Apocalypse, and that is awesome. And the reason why it's awesome is because basically you think of an army that of your dream army, be it using like a guard one for example. You've always wanted to recreate a realistic like British Army platoon or US Army platoon or US Marines in space. You can do that. On the flip side, you might always have wanted to like rebuild the Savlar Chem Dogs. You might have I read that one bit of White Dwarf fluff about them and I still love it and they're amazing. I want to build that army. You can do that. That's totally possible, and it's not ever going to draw the ire of some like Rivet Counter or some absolute turbo neckbeard, because it's right and they're your dudes and it's amazing. Okay? However, it's also, like I said, one of these things is also why it's awful. For example, right now, the balance in 40k is so buggered. It's so just screwed up that in order for Guard to be competitive, one of our like 3-ish competitive builds is 300 plus conscripts. That's where we've been forced to go, to just break the game, to just, the saying, the game broke before the Guard did, which I hope I coined, but I probably didn't. But the game broke before the Guard did. That's what we're being forced to do, because if you don't do that, you might as well just stay at home. It's like Prestige Worldwide. If you can't do karaoke, then just sit the hell down. If you can't bring 300 conscripts, just sit the hell down. You're not gonna be really taking part. And I've seen that happen. When I went and took my 365 conscripts and I faced one of the other Guard players there, a good friend of mine called Ash, and he literally said to me, I have had not a great tournament. I think he ended up going like 2 and 3, simply because he was just running regular Guard, and he just said it still doesn't work. Even with Hammer the Emperor, still doesn't work. So that's why 40k is awesome, because you can bring 365 conscripts. That's why it's awful, because if you want to play competitively, you have to bring 300 plus conscripts, or it's just not going to work. And this kind of thing, this dichotomy, starts filtering into all aspects of 40k. So for example, let's look at lore for a moment. And I know I've made a huge point. The first point's gone on for like 7 minutes. But let's take a look at lore for a second and keep this like a more quick point, right? Some of the 40k lore is fantastic. Gaunt's Ghosts is just so rereadable. I have read the books a dozen times. Not all of them, to be fair. So I just had I read like the first 7 and then just had the first 2 omnibuses and then sort of took a big break, but I'm reading through the later ones now. No spoilers. And so Gaunt's Ghost is some of the best fluff like ever written. It's just amazing. Eisenhorn is just amazing. Anything Dan Abnett writes is amazing. And same like Hell's Reach, like Aaron Dembski Bowden, like that's just amazing. And there's so much like good fluff out there. And then you have books like I read recently, I think it's like Blades of Damocles or Flames of Damocles or something. It's like it's one of like the first books in like the Damocles Gulf Crusade bit. And there's like one awesome moment in that. But the rest of it is just Space Marines and it's Space Marine fluff and it's just terrible. And the reason it's terrible is because the person who's writing it is writing it like it's a 40k battle that they've put onto paper. So they'll describe. So Good 40k fluff will be rather vague around numbers. So if you ever read a Dan Abnett book, he'll very rarely say something like, 7 Imperial Guard troopers went round the corner. 2 of them were cut down in a flurry of fire. The remaining 5 opened up onto the heretics in front of them. 3 of the heretics toppled off. Then it's never described like that ever. He very, very rarely uses numbers. He'll say like Corbeck's mob went round the corner. They were met by a blistering course of fire. Krakoa twitched and went, and his head exploded in a shower of meat. Everyone get down! As they started returning fire, they saw the shadowy shapes of cultists falling from the debris. And it's like he's not describing anything specific. But in your head you're imagining, how many cultists are up there? How many are left in Corbeck's squad? How many casualties? Men are dying. Gaunt's like, Gaunt looks around. Men were dying all around him. It never say, Gaunt looks around him. There were 7 dead ghosts around him. He'll never say that. He'll never say that. Whereas you have bad 40k fluff like this Blaze of Damocles, whatever it was called. And it literally describes like a tactical squad of 10 Marines were fighting against 3 tile battlesuits. And, one of the Marines threw a grenade. Another one fired a plasma pistol. 3 more laid down, covering fire with their bolters. The 7 rounds ricocheted harmlessly off the battlesuit's armor, leveling one of its weapons. One of the Space Marines was vaporized instantly, and it's just like you're just describing essentially a tabletop engagement between a tactical squad and a squad of battlesuits. You're just describing that, okay? And that's bad. You're overly descriptive. You're not letting my imagination fill any of it in. And the way the units are interacting with each other, and the way sort of the characters interacting, I should say, like the squad versus the squad, they're interacting like a 40k battle. Whereas some of it's a very short excerpt, and this is a slight spoiler. So if you haven't read this, please cover your ears now. The second Last Chances book, at one point, a Deathwatch Space Marine turns up. And the way it is described is some of the best fluff for Marines that have ever been written. Because the feeling of power that is well described by a single Marine is amazing. Likewise, if you haven't read the book Cult of the War Mason, it's meant to be a Genestealer cult book, and it's meant to be a Genestealer cult versus Sister Battle. But like a third of the way through, a squad of Chaos Space Marines turns, like a third faction enters the mix, all looking for the same McGubbin. And the Chaos Space Marines utterly steal the show, because they are described as they're just so well described. And the author, Peter, I think it's Peter Feverari, or however you say it, does such a good job of conveying the difference between a Chaos Space Marine who is a veteran of the Long War in power armor, and a Sister of Battle who's also in power armor. On tabletop, especially like right now, both these models have got a 3-up save. Both of them have got 1 wound. Lol, Chaos Space Marines. Both of them have the same ballistic skill, and they went the same. The Sister Battle's slightly less weak and slightly less tough, but that's it, right? Like there's not a huge difference between those units on the tabletop, but in the lore there's a huge difference, and it's brutal. Like it builds up to this confrontation between the two, and there's like a whole platoon, for lack of a better term, like 10-20 sisters go up against like 4 Chaos Space Marines, and it's never described before, so it gives them names and everything, and the sisters just get destroyed, and it describes them like punching through the battle plate and crushing sternums, and like just crushing the heads of Sisters of Battle and just splattering them everywhere, and like just ruining them. It's a bit like it's a bit gory, but it's really like it's built up this confrontation. And if you've gone into this expecting like your normal Space Marine like fan wank and all that kind of stuff, and you would be building, and in your head you're thinking, oh, like this is going to be a pretty equal fight, and then it just totally isn't. The Marines aren't invincible, but it just so isn't. that it makes you go, it's a holy shit moment. And that is awesome fluff. And so this is, again, why is 40k so awesome with like descriptions like that, and then so awful with like fluff and stuff like that. You get the same thing with models. You know, you'll have some models which are so just incredible. Just the dynamic poses of them are fantastic and timeless. You know, a good model is timeless. And if I'm going to use an Imperial Guard example, I would say there are two old models which are now timeless, which I love. And the first one is Kazakin, which to this day are still sought out. And obviously we're getting new Kazakin. As far as we're aware, we're getting new Kazakin. And those sculpts will be timeless as well. They'll be fantastic. And then you've also got, sadly, which you just cannot get anymore, there was like a third iteration of Ogrin. So you had like the really wacky Ogrin from like the 90s, and then there was like this like they released a second set of metal Ogrin, and they looked fantastic. They looked better than the current lot of Ogrins, which look really just dumb, like as in just silly, like stupid dumb. That they've really played up the stupidity of them. And those models are absolutely fantastic as well. And you've got models like that, but then like I said, you've got awful models like the sort of. I don't like the current look of the current Ogrin. I think the current Ogrin look too wacky. They've really made them look overly stupid. And we know they're meant to be stupid. But they look really overly stupid. They don't just look like dumb brutes. They look like they've got something wrong with them, to try and put it mildly. You know, I don't want to get in trouble. So, again, that's why 40k is so awesome. And why 40k is so awful, because you'll have some models, and you'll all have your favourite models, like you'll look at a model and every single time you're like, damn, that's a good looking model. Damn. And sometimes it's just something like you make. And then sometimes you've just got like Catachans. It's just like, Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, someone redo the Catachans already. Jesus. Put them out of the misery. Do you know what I mean? Like they're just bad. And why Games Workshop still has the guy with the bloody boss eyes as the picture is beyond me. So that is why 40k is so awesome. That is why 40k is so awful. 40k contains some of the greatest fluff. It contains some of the most inspired and creative armies, and 40k contains some of the best models that you can buy. Games Workshop still produces the best models. As someone who's been getting into bot action, I have to say, bot action models may be cheaper, but 40k models are higher quality, by and large. That's just the sad fact of it. That's just the way it is. That's the sad fact of it. That's the reality of it. But 40k is awesome. But 40k is awfully frustrating at times. But that is why, to totally rip off the act man, that is why 40k is so awesome and so awful. So there you go, guys. Hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have enjoyed the video, please consider heading on over to the Patreon page. There's a link down in the description below. This channel lives and dies on Patreon viewership. YouTube adverts, even though I have monetized, don't bring in anywhere near as much to sustain this channel. So if you have enjoyed it and you want to chuck a few bucks my way, then please head on over to the Patreon. I'll be eternally grateful to you. You can sign up for as little as $1, or you can give more than that if you want. Anything is appreciated. I want to say, before I forget, a huge thank you to the current Patreon supporters. You guys know you're awesome. You guys know that without this channel, without you, I wouldn't still be like doing content. The fact that I'm able to go and just go to tournaments and bring back wacky lists like 365 concepts is entirely down to you guys. So I can't say it enough. Massive thank you to the Patreon supporters. You guys are totally awesome. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you for watching. And of course, I'll see you guys next time.